because I used to work with Lance at London Fashion Week, Paris, New York.
Yeah, because were you doing this with Wella?
With Wella on the side.
Those two were
I had this boss at Wella called Siobhan, and she said, I don't mind if you want to take the occasional sickie and go and do fashion shows and stuff like that. Just let me know, and I'll sign your forms for you, and say you're off ill, or I'll give you some time off in lieu. So she knew that I was kind of trying to get out there into the fashion world, and Lance was a little gateway for that. So I was doing Kate Moss, Yasmin Le Bon, Claudia Schiffer, Naomi Campbell. Like, it was mega. If I had an Instagram account in 1996, I'd have had 1 million followers. It'd be mega, I've got to stop saying the word mega. So yeah, it was really good, and my career really popped off because all of a sudden I had this CV with just mega Burberry, Alexander McQueen, Versace, like Yasmin Le Bon, Naomi Kidd, Jodie Kidd, Naomi Campbell, all on this CV. I was like,
your knowledge as well.
Yeah.
You're picking up, the science, the colour, the technical fashion. I mean, your data of knowledge in hair.
It got massive, really, because
I can now see why you are so knowledgeable when I watch your lives in everything you do. I mean,
so you could spend a lot of time in the R&D department at Wella looking at ingredients and working out how they worked on the hair and what would be good and what wasn't good, what was important in a product, what wasn't, and then you would test them. This guy called Carl Ecker, who was the head of R&D, would say, here, Michael, try these products out, tell me what you think. And I'd go back and say, I love this is too greasy, whatever it was. So I had this whole thing going on, really, where I didn't really realise, this is only as I've got older that I realised.
What period now, again? Just
in the 90s,
our listener.
Yeah, 98, 99.
So, and age-wise, you're at this point?
26, maybe, 25, 26, yeah. And then, I had another one of those, what do you want, Michael? What do you want to do,
What, you questioning yourself?
Yeah. So I did this.
Why were you asking yourself that?
Because I couldn't get moving. I was only earning like 25 grand a year or something. And, I was...
Were you in the London life now? You're looking at what's going on around.
Yeah, and I could see...
You need a few quid down there.
And I looked at Lance Lowe, and he was driving a Range Rover. He had a salon on Cavendish Straight, Shipton, Leighton and Lowe, I think it was called. And I was like, I need some more money for a start, because I want to buy a house or get on the property ladder. I want some better clothes, it was just time to go up a level, but I didn't know how, so I was a bit like, what do you want, So I did the thing, I wrote down what I wanted, started doing the meditation thing again, I was like that.
Did you? So it's not always consistent.
No, it was like, how did I get here?
Now I need to move up a level again, back to the meditation.
So I did that, let's go back and do that again. So I did that again. And what I wanted to do was do the hair in TV adverts.
Why?
Because I loved the idea that your hairstyle would sell £1 billion worth of shampoo. You know what I mean? So there was this thing at the time that was, I always used to think your client is a walking advert for you. So if you had a famous client, that advert would go to more people. And that was kind of marketing for you, if you like. Now, Nikki Clark at the time did Anthea Turner's hair, and she was the most famous female TV presenter in Britain. And she had the most desirable hairstyle. Like, everybody brought fucking pictures of Anthea Turner in every day to the salon or whatever, She basically had Nikki Clark's hair. That was what was quite funny about it.
I've still got some of them coming into me. They still want the Anthea Turner.
So I was like, I need a famous client who can be an advert for me. But also that idea of, why don't you just do the hair in a TV advert? Your hair is the advert, and it's your work. And you could be responsible for $1 billion business by making the hair look great in an advert. Wella had a consumer products division, so it had a professional division, which I worked in, but it had this consumer products division that had Shockwaves, Silvercrin, Vosine. It had this colour brand called Viva On Off, which was a colour you could put on and take off. It had this shampoo range called Liquid Hair that sponsored Friends in the UK. I don't even remember that. Friends sponsored by Wella Liquid Hair.
I can't remember that, but...
They were mega, it was a £100 million company or whatever, Wella Consumer Products. So I went over there and said, look, I'd love to come and work in consumer products. So they gave me a job there.
So this was that moment where you're thinking the consumer side.
That's what I wanted. The consumer side was where it's at to me. Well, what I had difficulty with is doing one person's hair at a time. I was like, I want to do 1 million people at a time. Like, how do you do 1 million people's hair at a time? And the way to do that is you get them to do it themselves, but you teach them how to do it, Here's the products, here's the tools,
Gotcha.
That's how you scale up as a hairdresser is like, you know, you can only do 8 clients a day or whatever. It's like, how do I do 1,000 clients a day? You know, you do it like this. You know, that's what I was thinking. So Wella
is this a client or site? Is this
Wella consumer? It is.
Yeah. So you went to Wella consumer.
Yeah. So
you kind of started to. You're doing your consumer, but for a lot of the public, you became particularly known as the street hairdresser.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
On the one show.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's going to lead us on to pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where we're at there. But before we get to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me how that moment. So your career's bubbling along nicely. You're a consumer.
Yeah.
You want to do lots of people. How did that come calling?
Well, I decided I wanted to be on telly. You know, when I said, "What do you want, Michael?" It was like, I want to do the hair and TV adverts, and I want to be like Jamie Oliver is for cooking. I want to be like that for hair. So that was another example of looking outside of the industry.
Did you go back to that meditation again when you next go?
Pretty much, yeah. It was something that I'd asked for. Like I wanted it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, let's see if I can make it happen, you know. Because it's this very interesting idea where you want something, but you think, well, I couldn't do it. I don't know how, you know. I didn't know how. I didn't know anyone in telly or anything like that.
Because I'm thinking, have you got the links of the TV world down here when you're working in London? Are you crossing over with the consumer side and suddenly, a producer comes along and...
So this is, again, this idea about synchronicity, I think, which is what you say what you want, you meditate on it, and then things start to... move around you, an opportunity arises, you know. So I decided I wanted to be on telly like Jamie Oliver. I had a good friend called Burnley John, from Burnley, you know. And he said, I went to film school. John wasn't really working, but he said, a good friend of mine is a movie editor. And he was working with Harvey Weinstein and stuff like this guy. He said, but he's got a stag do going to Budapest, and there's quite a few people in the telly industry. Shall I see if I can get you on this Budapest stag do? And I was like, yeah, get me on the fucking stag do, you know. So he got me on the stag do, and he said, I'm going to put you in a room with this guy called Andy Abrahams. He's a development producer, and he develops ideas for TV. And I'll put you two together, see if anything happens.
This is the idea moment.
This is the idea moment, yeah. So me and Andy shared a room, and we fell in love with each other, really. We just became instant good friends. We went to this Budapest bathhouse called the Gellert Bathhouse, which is just naked men wandering around in various hot tubs and cold plunges and stuff like that. It was this very funny thing where you led on this big table, and it was like a karcher. You karchered each other naked with it, you know. I was like, what the fuck are we doing, you know?
I need to get that scene out of my head pretty quickly.
Do that, right? You know. God, it was absolutely hilarious. But anyway, we just clicked. And when we got back to London, he said, I want to take you for lunch. And he said, I think I can get you on telly. And he said, let's go and shoot a little pilot somewhere.
What are you thinking at this moment?
I was thinking, wow, this is fucking brilliant, you know. I asked for something and it's happening, you know. And I was like, wow, this thing works, you know. Say what you want.
Certainly in front of around naked men.
Yeah. Like, this is how bizarre it is. Like the weirdest things happen in the weirdest places, you know. So we went to Camden Market, and we had a director and a producer and, a cameraman and all that. And he said, why don't we just ask people in the street and we'll cut their hair in the street, you know. And I was a bit nervous because Lance Lowe had done this a few years ago.
So Lance is going to think.
And Lance is going to think, you nicked my idea. And I said to Andy, I said, look, I feel a bit weird because this guy Lance Lowe was doing this a few years ago and I feel like I'm stealing his idea. And Andy pointed out something very true, which is that loads of people have the same idea at the same time. You know, you can't just say, well, somebody else thought it, so it can't be my thought. He said, it doesn't matter. You know, like, he did it, and has he done anything with it? And I was like, well, no, he hasn't. And he said, right, well, we're doing it. He said, don't worry about it, forget about it. It's like, he doesn't own the idea. And I said, but I do feel guilty about it. And he said, well, call him and tell him or something, you know. So I did eventually. I did eventually see him and explain it to him. But it was one of those moments where I was like, I should do this. So bury the guilt in some way. Get on with it. Yeah, you know, so it's quite a funny process. Anyway, we stopped people in the street and cut their hair, and it were brilliant. So Andy take it to the Discovery Channel, and they said, yep, we'll commission 60 episodes straight away. He rang me up and he says, we're on telly.
Suddenly that rock star is now working his way into, but in a completely different direction.
Yeah. So it was very funny. So, and then he said, how much do you want to get paid? And I just assumed I was going to do it for free. I was like, you're going to pay me? He's like, yeah, of course, you're working. I was like, oh, I don't know.
I'm going to be on TV.
What we got? I was just happy to do this thing. So anyway, we shot 60 episodes of that.
Did you get paid all right?
Yeah. It was a couple of grand, but it wasn't mega, but it was enough to get
paid
going.
For being on TV.
Yeah, it was great.
Doing something you're enjoying. And have you are you still with Wella?
I'm still with Wella at this point.
Session work?
And still doing sessions, yeah. So I was probably doing bits for Sam McKnight and stuff like that, mainly in London. I'd met my then wife at the time, so we were I think we bought a house around that time. Wella sold to Procter & Gamble around that time, so I took a redundancy package, which gave me enough money to get a deposit for a house.
Was you ready for that change anyway?
Yeah.
It
all came along at the right time. And I had this TV show, so I had a meeting with Procter & Gamble. The MD at Wella Consumer, he said, I want you to do something for me. He said, Procter & Gamble having this huge conference, and he said, I want you to go along and present for an hour the culture of Wella as a business. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? How am I supposed to do that? He said, don't worry about it. I want you to go and do that. And I was like, right, what do you mean the culture? And it was like, what is Wella? What have they bought? They don't really know what they bought, So you need to go along and tell them what Wella is. It's like, I don't know what it is, it's a big company, I don't know. So I spoke to someone at Procter & Gamble, and they said, we've got a template. We'll send you a PowerPoint presentation with a template. You just fill in the bits and then present it. And I was like, okay. And they said, because you worked in professional and consumer, and you're a great talker, you can go and do this. But I mean, it was the mega bosses at P&G. We're talking about some board members. This guy called Christopher de la Puente, who was the
we're not talking
global
any
CEO.
Small little minor company here, are we? Procter & Gamble, for heaven's sake.
I'm a fucking idiot, So I thought, okay, well, this is an opportunity for me to sell myself in a mega way to everyone at Procter & Gamble, see if I can get a freelance contract or something, So I got up there and I did this whole spiel on Wella, and then I did some models as well, some hair, talked a bit about my career, how I was on the telly, and my ambitions for myself, So I really leveraged it, which I realised that the MD at Wella had sent me for that reason. He'd set me up, essentially, to say, go and sell yourself to these lot. And they did. They gave me a 3-year contract. 70.
So freelance was...
Freelance.
So what does that mean?
30 days a year.
30 days a year?
30 days a year to work on all the consumer brands and help them with professional a bit as well, so they understood what they were doing with professional and what it was they bought, help them understand the mechanics of Wella and departments to get rid of and things like that, I wasn't privy to what they were going to get rid of, but Wella had a transport
division. Did you feel well equipped for that?
No, I had no idea what I'm doing, but I've no idea what I'm doing now, it doesn't matter, it's just like...
You just go with it. This is it.
What's the question? I either know the answer and I'll tell you, and if I don't, I'll go and find out and tell you, it's just as simple as that, really, Don't make anything up. That was my big mantra, Just don't pretend too much, So, yeah, they offered me this contract. It was 75 grand a year for 30 days, which was 3 times more than I was earning for a full-time job, So I was like, this is it. This is my moment, because 30 days a year, what's that, a couple of days a month or something? And I was like, I'm free to do whatever I want the rest of the time, And I got this redundancy package from Wella, so I just had a bit of money, and it was like, okay, mobility.
Had you cleared all your debt?
Cleared all my debts at this point. I had none of these county court judgments or anything. I was probably about 27, 28 at this point.
And you'll get married, did you say?
Yeah, I got married when I was 30, and then started having kids.
How was that? How did parenthood and having...
Yeah, it was mega. I always wanted to be a dad. It was just...
Did you naturally fall into...
Yeah, it just reached a point in my life where I was like, I am bored shitless.
Was you a party guy?
No, I wasn't really. I didn't like nightclubs. I'm too small for a nightclub. I disappear, Nobody can see me. Yeah. Which is probably why I wear all these beads and everything, trying to make myself visible. So yeah, there just wasn't a thing for me. I loved going to gigs. I loved music. I play the piano and the guitar, and I sing and stuff like that. There's a piano there, there's a guitar on the wall over there.
Yeah.
So whenever I've got 10 minutes to myself, I'll just tinker about and play some stuff. So yeah, that's what I like doing. Really, I just loved.
So being a parent was just loved.
I was ready for it. I was just like, okay. It literally.
So you've got the stability, I'm guessing, getting out.
Yeah.
Got this job, you're getting paid well.
I get paid well. I had time to spend with the kids.
People were happy that for 5 days a week.
And then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So Procter & Gamble were based in Geneva, and I had a UK contract.
Since there was a lot of happiness around the P&G era.
It was mega, yeah. It was really
Wella. Yeah, just
a big deal. And there was so much money floating about. And they were going to relaunch Shockwaves. And they put me right at the centre of this relaunch.
That was just an iconic brand.
Oh, it was a £50 million brand on its own, in the UK and Europe.
You talk to anybody of a generation, they've all had the Shockwaves.
Shockwaves gel, yeah. So it was really good. So Geneva gave me a contract as well, probably about another 80 grand a year. So I was really earning good money at this point. And then they'd buy additional days all the time, and they'd say, look, we need to come to Berlin for a week to shoot adverts for Europe for Shockwaves, or we're shooting adverts for Pantene. Can you come do the hair?
All that performer, and all that had really started coming handy, wasn't it? Combined with your knowledge, your personality.
And the thing I've missed out really in all this, probably quite important, was that the first commercial I did, the first hair commercial, was with Dina McCall. And that was in 2000. No, it was for Wella Viva On Off.
Oh, cool.
We covered her red. Garnier came around a bit later. But that's where I met her. And then she took my number and she said, can I call you to do my hair for other jobs? I was like, yeah, sure. And I was like, this is my celebrity client.
Did you ever feel that starstruck? I know, obviously, Davina is your partner, but did you have that starstruck moment?
Yeah, definitely did.
Because Davina had this period as well where
she was massive. Yeah,
Big Brother.
Yeah, she was just before Big Brother. I met her. So then she rang me and said, "Would you come to Big Brother every Friday and do my hair?"
Wow.
And then various photographers would ring up and say, "We're shooting Davina, and she's requested you to do her hair." So I started doing lots of cover shoots for magazines and stuff like that with her. And then I had Tess Daly then as well. Danny Minogue was one of mine.
Don't
Darcy
get me with
Bussell.
Danny Minogue.
Yeah, okay. Oh. Yeah, she's lovely, So I picked up a big string of celebrity clients. So I had this quite nice thing where I was on telly a bit. I had this contract with Procter & Gamble, which was paying me quite a bit. And I had these celebrity clients, So I was on a mega roll. But I was completely outside the professional hairdressing industry at this point.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything.
So you, because everybody would kind of say, well, Michael, he's popped up by the professional side of the industry. This is maybe the misconception that
never
in the industry,
never
like
been
sold to the consumer. But actually, what you're saying is, because even Session World is completely removed from the professional world. And you're educated. So everybody had this, thing, Michael Douglas, he's sold his soul to consumer, but that's what I'm really keen for people to understand is you built your career really.
Yeah, well, what I would say
and
is
your
that
knowledge and your knowledge of the professional side of maybe products as well as the consumer. So you can compare the two.
Completely, yes. I know the two inside and out, Yeah. The other thing I would say is that it's not like the industry gave me anything. Like, it's never given me an award. I haven't won one single award. I've not been recognised for any. So it wasn't like the industry had ever really given me a leg up or supported me or helped me. Not that I expected it to either. There was no exchange. What I would say is that I was a supporter of the industry because I was a teacher of hairdressing to thousands and thousands of students. I worked at, what was it called? The Alternative Hair Show every year for 11 years. I worked at Salon every year for 11 years. I was giving non-stop to the industry, myself and all my knowledge for 11 years.
You don't get a lot back from that, do you?
I didn't get anything back from that. And I don't care. I didn't want anything back. It was a give. I just wanted to go, here's everything I know. Yeah. Hopefully I could be inspiring. But I thought, how do I reach more and more people? Get on telly, what I loved about Jamie Oliver was I didn't like cooking and I didn't like eating. Yeah, I was watching Jamie Oliver cook.
That's right. I'm exactly the same. I can watch people with passion.
Yes. So I was like, I want to make a TV program that a bald man would find entertaining enough to watch. Like a program about hair that somebody who doesn't have hair would enjoy watching. That was my goal. And in doing so, what I'd do is hopefully inspire a whole generation of people to want to be hairdressers, but also explain to the world The hairdressers are important. They're like smart people that had thoughts and ideas and opinions that were valuable, you know. Yeah. So I wanted to be a representation of something good about the industry. But I couldn't do that in professional hairdressing because it's too boxed in. Like, I don't even know who's the British Hairdresser of the Year this year. Nobody knows unless you're actually in the industry, you know. It's like you have to get out of that box to get into the world. And what was brilliant about being in telly, I was out of the whole hairdressing game and I was in telly.
Did that feel liberating?
Yeah, because I owned a production company at that point.
What was that? What's that about? I mean,
because
you're accumulating some pretty good money along here. You're doing Davina's hair, you know, which is probably a nice project in itself. Yeah,
I had these contracts with Procter & Gamble. I was on the telly. It was like, okay, you know, what should we do? And I thought, well, let's make these TV programs ourselves.
So did you have ideas for production programs?
Yeah.
Did you produce anything?
Yeah, we produced this great series called The History Man and the Hairdresser with me and Dan Snow, the historian. So he became my business partner in the production company, along with Andy, who I'd met in Budapest Bathhouse. So we had this production company called Full Blown Media.
I love it.
And me and Dan made this series called The History Man and the Hairdresser, because he was a historian, double first at Oxford, cleverest bloke I've ever met, changed my life, this guy. And again, nothing to do with hairdressing, completely outside, but inspired me in hairdressing, you know. So I was always looking outside, because all the growth is outside of you. Like, you could ask yourself the question, what's more important, what you know or what you don't know? And the answer to that is what you don't know. That's what's important. And how do you go and find out what you don't know? You have to go out there and get it, you know. And walking around the great ballroom at the Grosvenor House Hotel, I felt there was nothing there for me anymore. Like, I wasn't learning anything there. It was like it was time to leave the room, you know. That's why I went to consumer products, really, is that I realised big mass retail was loads of rich information that I wanted to know about.
Was there wealth there as well? How important is money?
Yeah, it's pretty important, I think. You can't do anything without it. So it'd be a bit naive to say it's not massively important. But this business really is more than that. We'll get on to lockdown, because this business was born out of lockdown and me trying to work out, what do you want, Michael? Like, you've done this now.
I remember we had a call. I remember we spoke briefly and it around the one show, and you were going to do the hair show, and we said, well, come down, and I remember you saying, I need cash at the moment. It was I said,
oh yeah, I was broke, you know, like,
you know what I mean?
Lockdown killed me, you know.
I mean, need cash. I'm hard.
Yeah. It reminded me of coming out of hospital again. It was like I'd had to start.
Did it frighten you, that period then?
Yes, I was terrified, actually. I was about 3 weeks away from going bankrupt, personally bankrupt.
But you're with Davina at this point in your life.
Yes.
So can we... There's so many directions that I want to go. I'm thinking, where's the...
I'm getting divorced at this point. I live in a little 2 up, 2 down in St Albans
with my kids. Was it just a strain of life that
Yeah. I mean, I definitely don't want to go into that particularly, but it was just the end of the marriage. It was really hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I moved into this little 2 up, 2 down.
How old were your boys at the time? Just to give us a sense of...
About 13 and 15.
Okay.
It's difficult, you know.
Yeah.
And I'd been through it myself as a kid, so I knew how brutal it was, you know, and it was horrific, really. So I moved into this little house, and then lockdown came along, and it just wiped me out, really.
It almost was around the point of the lockdown coming up.
Yeah, it was exactly in the eye of the storm, yeah. So it was like a perfect storm where literally my entire life collapsed.
Because you're in the public eye now.
Yeah.
You know,
yes, it was a bit, you know.
So it's not like you can just do things quietly, and I guess you had the friendship with Davina, or however that may look.
But
it must have been a very what I'm getting at, though, because you're in the public eye, so it's not like you could go away and do this quietly.
No, you couldn't really. You were under observation all the time. What was interesting is I don't have a big following on social media at that point. I'd been on the One Show for about 13 years. I had a very successful time on the One Show. And the One Show had said...
Had it changed your life a little bit in the public profile?
Not really. Like, people had been recognising me in the street and that for about 20 years at this point, you know.
Yeah.
And it was super nice. People would say, I love you on the telly. You're always really happy looking and you're super smiley. It's great to see you, that kind of thing. I loved it, And then the one show said, lockdowns happened, all the hairdressers have been closed. You're our hairdressing presenter. Would you come on the one show and help people at home about how they can look after their hair at home while the salons are closed? And I was like, this is my whole area. I've worked in consumer products for 20 years. I can tell people how to help themselves while all the hairdressers are shut. And the funny thing about it is that they said, we'll do it via an iPad on Zoom type thing into the studio. But they said, you won't be able to see the studio. You'll just have a black screen, but you'll be able to hear Alex and
So you're looking at a black screen.
Just looking at a black
screen.
screen.
Alex and
they can see me, but I can't see them, And they were like, hey, Michael, so...
You're in your kitchen, if I remember.
I'm in my kitchen, yeah. And they were like, hey, Michael, so tell us, how can people look after their hair at home? What's safe and all that kind of stuff,
Did you know that they were going to ask you this question?
Yes, they
but you were prepped before.
Yeah. They said, okay, what can people buy in the shops where they can do their own hair? It wasn't like, can you sneak a hairdresser around your house? It was illegal, So I was like, because I think I had expressed concerns and I was a bit like, well, it's a bit tricky because hairdressers don't like consumer products and he'll be me talking about it. And they said, you don't need to worry about that. This is just about people at home. You're helping them with, like, what should they do to their hair while
so naturally,
so you're like,
help
okay,
people.
You're just there to help people.
I think any hairdresser.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, cutting your kid's hair can be quite tricky, but you can go and buy some clippers from Argos or something like that, and you can put them on, start with the number 2, go up to number 3, trim the top. Don't go mad, but, it's not as difficult as you think, that kind of thing, which pissed people off because it was like, it is difficult. And it's like, it's not that difficult, really. So there was that, and then somebody said, what about colouring your hair then? And I was like, yeah, it's fine to colour your hair. The stuff in the boxes on the shelves is pretty much the same stuff that you get in the salon, which is true. Like, I don't know how else to say that.
And that's the thing. It's like you wouldn't go on here or say,
I don't know lie about that.
You said but you're in a moment. You're thinking about the viewer.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about you being helpful, So I said, you can buy stuff. It's not full of toxic ingredients or anything like that. It's the same ingredients, really, if you look at the packet. Just read the instructions, do an allergy test. Bob's your uncle, and that just like set the fucking wolves on me,
Well, it must have been absolutely monumental
it was because
so much in your life because
I was already in
the hairdressers do because you're hosting, which I now had the pleasure to host.
Yeah.
So you're Business Network Live. You've kind of got one side in the consumer professional side. I'm guessing. And that maybe could have been the tricky, is because you probably had that. So suddenly that must have had an impact, hosting these events, working in the professional side.
Oh, I'll tell you what happened is the barrage of abuse essentially got cancelled. It was just catastrophic. The DMs. I mean, my kids were getting death threats. Like people.
Was it really? And this
really was intense.
From our industry.
Oh yeah. People I knew even.
So even people you knew?
Yeah, were actually turned on me publicly and said, this guy's a fucking idiot.
Because it went in the news as well, didn't it?
It was on the Daily Mail, it was in the Sun, it was everything. Yeah.
A TV moment.
The only person that ever got more complaints to Ofcom was Jeremy Clarkson. I got something like 287 complaints from hairdressers to Ofcom.
But did the PR help you?
Well, do you know what? There were 2 or 3 interesting things that happened. The first thing was Ofcom investigated it. To see whether I'd said something illegal, unlawful, not true. And of course, there was nothing untrue about anything I said. So I was like, I told the truth, So that was quite a relief. I've never worked on the one show since. That was it. They got so many complaints.
So the one show?
I lost the contract on the one show for that, yeah.
So that moment?
Yeah.
Would you have done anything different?
No. It was the best thing I ever did.
Why do you say that?
I'll tell you as we go on, but it freed me up. It freed me up in a way I can't even begin to describe, because I had already had this feeling. Because
everybody's thinking you've got a dream gig here. Well, why do you want freedom up from that from?
You're
on TV.
I lost the Clairol job.
Hairdresser.
I lost the Clairol job, which was about 60 grand a year. I lost obviously the Business Network Live. Any other Wella work went. I I think I pretty much lost all contracts other than some freelancey bits in Geneva. So my income went down to about 30 grand a year, and my outgoings were 60 grand a year. So I was about to go bust, basically. It was so bad.
How do you mentally, how did that affect your well-being?
Really fucked, I was just like...
Angry?